With cost reductions being the subject today, I wanted to pay my respects to a couple of the cornerstones of that subject. Raza, Corridor Creeper, you will both be missed.
In the arms of the angel, fly away.
Just kidding. No, you won't. Greetings and welcome to Hearthstone Theory. After last week's video where I attempted to predict the next picks for the Hall of Fame, I engaged myself in an extended debate with a Reddit user about the nature of what makes cards overpowered. His general belief is that cards that reduced mana cost, such as Raza the Chained and Corridor Creeper, were a limitation for Hearthstone that should be corrected. This discussion had me realize that while my model does account for the cost of cards, it does not adequately address exactly how it affects the aggression, tempo, and flexibility of these cards. So today, I'll be looking into the cost of cards, and how that cost affects the card's statistics in the system that I use. Starting off, most players would assume that the cost of a card is very simple. The number in the big blue crystal at the top left. Done and done. Except, no. When you play a card, you are playing two distinct things: the mana the card demands, and the card from your hand. If this is difficult to picture, imagine each card as a contract, where if you pay the amount specified on the contract, you receive the effect of the card. However, you also lose that contract, unable to use it again. So the overall cost includes the mana you have to spend on it, and the freedom to use this card in the future. Some mana, and one card. If you're still not convinced, let's look briefly at Succubus. A 2-mana 4/3 would be very powerful, except that you are paying an extra card in cost. This is the discard mechanic in its simplest form, transforming cards into cost. With that in mind, we can then ask, how much is a card worth? Based on cards such as Novice Engineer, Gnomish Inventor, Power Word Shield, and Succubus, we can say that a card is usually worth approximately 1/1 in stats, with the draw effect worth slightly more. This makes a card worth the same as 1 mana. The only difference is that your mana pool and your card pool are different and expended at a different rate. Of course, if you have lots of mana and not many cards, then card draw is going to be worth more to you. This is commonly called top decking. People who top deck Nourish are usually pretty satisfied, because the more cards enables them to spend all of their mana. However, much like a high attack minion is valuable in some cases and useless in others, having cards is valuable in some cases and useless in others. In terms of card design, one card is worth 1 mana, and that's what's important for consideration here. So in terms of pure cost, playing a card can be viewed as its mana cost plus 1, with the cost of the card being the plus 1. With this model of cost in mind, we can now more thoroughly examine the situation of cost reduction. This mechanic has existed in cards like Sorcerer's Apprentice, Radiant Elemental, Preparation, Shadow Step, Millhouse Manastorm, and the coin. What? The coin? The coin doesn't reduce cost, I hear you saying, but the truth of the matter is, it does. I challenge you now, in what way would the coin be different if it said, the next card you play this turn costs 1 less? There are answers to this puzzle, so let me know yours in the comments below, but barring those few edge cases, it's usually an equivalent case. Having 1 more mana gives you the equivalent boost in flexibility that having a card cost 1 less would. And that is important to consider as we continue down this rabbit hole. So what does having a cost reduction do to the stats of a card? Let's look at a simple example. You have a Sorcerer's Apprentice on the field. What does that do to the Fireball that you cast from your hand? Instead of a 4 mana deal 6 damage, it's a 3 mana deal 6 damage, which is simultaneously easier to use and thus more flexible, and a greater amount of damage for its cost, hence more aggression and anti-tempo. Basically, casting a Fireball when you have Sorcerer's Apprentice gives you 1 more mana crystal, and a mana crystal is power and flexibility. Now some may now look to cards such as Preparation and Utter Terror, horrified as to the possibilities that having a 3 mana cost reduction on a card can provide. To those people I say, relax. The interesting thing about Preparation as a particular example is, while it provides the power boost on the turn that it is played, it does not provide nearly as much of a flexibility boost. You can translate Preparation, except in edge cases, as, if you cast a spell this turn, gain 3 mana this turn only. As we have established before, if-then clauses limit flexibility simply because you can't always use it. And in that manner, Preparation provides less flexibility than a simple mana boost would. This creates the interesting case where Preparation reduces a total cost by 2, 1 less because of the extra card cost, but because of the flexibility constraint, only provides a power boost of a little over 1 mana, with some cohesiveness reductions. You have more power if your deck casts a lot of spells, and less if it doesn't. In other cases, such as with Corridor Creeper, Cabal Crystal Runner, and Thing from Below, the boost that comes from the cost diminishing is counteracted by the limitations the card has. You need to trade minions, play secrets, summon totems, or a variety of other effects to get the cost reduction, all of which inhibit the flexibility of the cards. Arcane Tyrant is another example where a powerful spell needs to be played before its power can be used. This is an inherent flexibility reduction. This enables the cards to remain balanced, since you can't exploit its power instantaneously. It's useless when first drawn, and only becomes powerful in the right circumstance, like with preparation. So, cost reductions can create more power and flexibility, right? Well, it becomes more complicated than that when we go back to our model of cards as cost. A 0-mana Fireball still costs 1 Fireball card, while not spending any mana. What good is that mana reduction if it's your only Fireball in hand? With the exception of when a low-cost card allows you to draw cards, as is the case with Kobold Librarian and Gadget Sand Auctioneer, 0 1-cost cards have the weakness of draining your hand of cards too quickly. This actually causes the flexibility of cards to decrease for the lower mana values. You can look at the generation of power as an engine. You need about 3 parts mana and 1 part card for it to run efficiently, much like you need oxygen and gasoline for a car engine. If you have too many 1 or 0 drops in your deck, you'll run out of cards fast. This is a weakness commonly seen in aggressive decks, which run 1 drops to attempt to gain an early tempo edge but struggle in the endgame once their cards run out. To change gears on my final note, hero powers. Hero powers are another interesting case of cost reduction, with cards like Maiden of the Lake and Raza the Chained reducing the cost of hero powers. To quickly go over hero powers, they basically operate as a card you are given every turn, and then discard from your hand if you don't use it. Side note, this makes the Rogue Death Knight fascinating to me because the hero power literally becomes the last card you played that turn. Anyways, reducing these cards' cost makes them more powerful and just a touch more flexible, but until the Death Knights, hero powers were never particularly strong to begin with. The case of Raza and Shadow Reaper is particularly dangerous, since the refresh mechanic basically adds this power boosted ability back to your hand every time you use another card. This refreshing of cards and the power boost from cost reduction is the true danger. In the end, cost and cost reductions are only one side of the Hearthstone game. You can reduce the cost of every single card in your deck to 0, and then the limit would be getting cards into your hands. This dynamic of having cards, playing cards, and the limitations of when you can play cards is a core aspect of all card games, not just Hearthstone. And while cost reductions make cards easier to play, the process of doing this provides enough limitations to keep everything balanced. I mean, in most cases.